Now let us see how we can actually copy or move files within HDFS itself, which means from one HDFS location to another location and vice versa. So here you can get the help of cp command by saying hadoop fs-help cp. You can see it takes couple of control arguments -f to force copy. If the target files already exist, it will just override those files. If you don't specify -f, it will fail saying that the files already exist. -p to preserve the properties of the files. However, when it comes to -p, there are additional options which we can pass. If you just want to preserve timestamp and ownership, you can say -pto. If you want to preserve ownership and permissions, you can say -pop, so on and so forth. So you can use combination of these 5 additional values with respect to -p to control what all should be preserved. And then you have source and destination. As both are HDFS locations, there is no local associated with them, contrary to copy from local or put or copy to local or get. Okay. Before looking into an example, first let us validate what we have under /user/itversity. There is a directory called cards, and that cards have 2 files and 2 directories. You can validate by saying ls user itversity cards. And the 2 files have extension .txt, and the directories are smalldex as well as zipdex. Now let us say I want to copy these 2 files from /user itversity cards to /user itversity itself. So I can say hadoop fs-cp user itversity cards. We can use patterns such as star.txt to actually copy all the txt files. Even though it doesn't support all different combinations which we have in local file system or local files in Linux, when it comes to HDFS, we can use these simple patterns such as star to place hold for a particular pattern. Now you can specify the target location, which is nothing but user itversity, and hit enter. Now the files largedeck.txt and deckofcards.txt will be copied to location user itversity, and that you can validate by saying hadoop fs-ls user itversity. Okay. Here I am not going to demonstrate with -f and -p. I will leave it as an exercise to you. You try to use -f, -p with different combinations of TOPAX with respect to -p and see how it behaves. That being said, now it's time for us to understand mv command. So we can actually say hadoop fs-help mv and hit enter. When it comes to mv, there are no control arguments. You just have to specify source and destination. So now if I want to move these 2 directories, smalldex and zipdex, from cards to user itversity, I can say hadoop fs-mv and then user itversity cards dex, okay, and then user itversity and hit enter. Now if you say hadoop fs-ls user itversity, you will be seeing all the .txt files and also these 2 directories with dex at the end. Now if you look at the cards, there will be only 2 files because the 2 files are copied, whereas the directories are moved. You can see here there are only files. Okay, so that being said, quite often we might have to rename the files in HDFS. So there are multiple ways to do so. First, copy files from source to destination and then delete from source. That is one approach. The second approach is you can use mv command to just move files from one location to another location with a different name. Then the files will be renamed. Many people tend to use this approach where they try to copy file from source to destination, validate whether the files are copied properly or not, and then delete. However, when it comes to HDFS, the size of datasets tend to be pretty big, and if you just use cp command to copy files from one location to another location for the purpose of move, then it has to copy all the blocks and update the name node metadata with the new set of block information pointing to new set of files, which is a bit tedious, time consuming, etc. If you use MV, when it comes to MV, it will not move the files at all. It will just update the metadata by updating the mapping between file and blocks. Okay, as it only touches metadata to take care of move or rename, using move command is much efficient than using CP. So unless and until it is absolutely required, don't try to copy files from source to destination and delete the source in the pursuit of renaming the files. Try to use move command only. Now let us also understand how the files will be copied from one HDFS location to another HDFS location. When it comes to copy from local, as I have explained earlier, it follows this diagram and it makes sure the files are copied from local file system to HDFS. But within HDFS, it don't do this. It will actually copy the blocks associated with one location to another location, and it will update the name node metadata. It is a bit faster than using copy from local, because copy from local needs to make sure that data is copied from the client to data nodes, and as part of that process it also need to divide the file into blocks and then copy. Whereas when it comes to copy files from one location to another location in HDFS, it need not divide the file into blocks because the files are already divided into blocks. And also not only client but the data nodes which have blocks can copy blocks associated with the files to other nodes in the pursuit of copying the data from one HDFS location to another HDFS location, and hence it is much faster than copy from local, which takes care of copying files from local file system to HDFS. That being said, if you want to rename the files, make sure you always use MV command rather than using copy files from source to destination and delete from the source, because it is not as effective as running simple move command.